This is our third Journeywoman Facebook Live, and so my third as well. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Carolyn Ray. I'm the publisher and CEO of Journeywoman. And the other woman that you see on the screen here is Amy Gordon, who is the author of 100 Things to Do Before You Die in Puerto Rico, her new book. And we're going to be having more of these on different destinations from around the world. So if there's something that you're interested in, if there's a country or a place or a city, let us know. And we will find an expert just like Amy to come in and help us learn more about that place. This video, if you can't stay for the whole 45 minutes or so, we're also going to make it available on YouTube. And of course, it will also be posted on our Facebook page after this so that you can watch it at your leisure with a margarita or a glass of wine. So usually we have wine, but I'm abstaining at the moment. I'm being a good girl. So anyways, why don't we get started, and we'll get into it and see if we get some questions as we go along the way. And then somewhere through this, I'll talk about the contest that we're doing on Instagram, where you very generously agreed to give away some copies of your book. So one of the reasons that I wanted to go to Puerto Rico was because I read another fantastic book, this book, which was about how Chef Jose Andres came in and fed people, and how that brought together the island and all the amazing things that happened. And so I very much wanted to go down and help and volunteer. And I did have the chance to do that with World Central Kitchen when I was down there in December. And that was kind of the starting point for me to become curious about Puerto Rico, because it was a place I hadn't really thought about, even though I'd been there on a cruise when I was, in my teenage years. But I hadn't gone outside of San Juan. So on the trip that I just did, I spent 3 weeks there and went all over the country and had your book in hand, actually.
Yay!
For a lot of those places. And I think I was really surprised by how much Puerto Rico had to offer, and how easy it was to get out of San Juan in a way and experience things that I didn't even know existed in the rest of the country. So part of what we want to talk about today is kind of the authenticity of travel and looking for those off the beaten road places that you may not discover unless you have a helping hand and someone to guide you. So Amy, tell us a bit about you and why you wrote this book and how it all came to be. How long did it take? Who helped you? How did you do it? So give us a bit of background on that.
Sure. So I live in Vieques, Puerto Rico, which is an island off of the main island of Puerto Rico. And I've been living here for about 4 years. I wrote this book. It took pretty much start to finish, took about a year between the research, the traveling, the writing, the editing. That whole process took about a year. And I wanted to write this book because, well, I'm a travel writer who lives in Puerto Rico, so there's a reason to write it. But also, when after things kind of settled down after the storms happened a couple of years ago, and we weren't like in crisis mode anymore, I thought, I can't help someone rebuild a roof, and I can't help someone wire their house for electricity. But I can write this book and encourage people to get out and explore Puerto Rico and come here and fuel the tourism economy and just discover what an amazing place this is. So that was kind of the catalyst for writing it. And yeah.
And so I went to Vieques. I'm learning how to say it. It's a bit hard.
A hard K. Vieques.
And I think I heard about you there, but we didn't meet there. Because you had just launched your book, actually, I think a few days before I arrived. But one of the stories I heard was about the women of the island and how they came together to rebuild the Malecon and some of the other buildings, because it's very much right. You're right on the ocean there. Like there's nothing between you and between you and the water. So
yeah, and most of the time that's the appeal of being here. You're right on the water. It's beautiful. It's just tranquil and lovely. Every night is amazing sunset. But yeah, the women here, I mean, the people here, but in particular, the women here are amazing. I always say that this island in particular is not for prima donnas. And so it's just powerful, strong women who get things done.
So let's talk about a woman who really brought Puerto Rico into the spotlight a few weeks ago at the Super Bowl. And you told me that you were in a bar watching the Super Bowl. Tell me about the halftime show and what happened in that bar when she got up and opened up her, what do you call that?
Her feather coat. It was awesome. You know, we're all watching the halftime show. Everyone was there, kind of gathered watching the game. There was a hot wings challenge that had just happened. And we're all watching this performance. And, you know, because it's Puerto Rico, people love J-Lo anyway. And then when she opened up that coat with the flag and with the kids sing, I mean, it was just, the whole bar went crazy. It was so, everyone was so happy and excited, and just seeing Puerto Rico represented in such a beautiful and public way. And I'm sure it was like that in every single bar in Puerto Rico.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure we were jumping up and down here. So
yeah.
So how much do people really know about Puerto Rico, do you think? And you know, I think we may know that it was discovered by Christopher Columbus in 1493. And I believe it was named by him as well. I believe that Ponce de Leon found or discovered San Juan in particular. But what about Puerto Rico's status? It's part of the United States, yet it's its own country. So that has both advantages and disadvantages, especially if you're trying to travel from the US. It's easy, right?
Yes, we're part of the United States, territory of the United States. So super easy to come here from the States. You don't need to change your cell phone plan. You don't need to change any money. Everything is as if you're in the United States, and we have a U.S. post office, just as if you were anywhere. So in a lot of ways, it's super easy. Quick trip, whatever, you know, or a long trip, you know, easy from anywhere, but especially from the United States, the mainland United States.
And what about the size of Puerto Rico? Because I had this impression when I was doing my research to come down that it was complicated and big, and, you know, am I going to Uber? Am I going to drive? Am I going to fly? There's no real trains or anything like that. So
no, you can do all of those things. There's a train that goes in a very small area around San Juan, like near the college, university. But other than that, yeah, you can drive. You can in the San Juan metro area, there's Uber, and in some places around the island, Uber's getting more popular. You can fly. There's a lot of little airports that you can fly to, kind of, if you're going somewhere specific, you can get there. There's a handful of small airports around the island. But if you wanted to go from the east to the west, you can get there in probably 3.5, 4 hours, if you wanted to just drive straight through. But there's also so much to see and do on the way, so you could kind of go off the beaten path and discover some new things. You can go from end to end in a few hours. One of the things that I say in the book, one of the 100 things to do in Puerto Rico, is chase the sun. So start in the east, watch the sunrise in the East Coast, and then make your way over to the West Coast by sunset and watch the sunset from the West. So, I mean, easy to do in one day, even easy to do in half a day.
So mimosas in the morning and margaritas in the evening.
Well, pina coladas. Let's go pina coladas. Okay. This is the original birthplace of the pina colada.
Excellent.
Another thing to do before you die in Puerto Rico.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, so because it is a U.S. territory, I noticed a lot of people speak English, especially in San Juan, but also once you get outside, it is a lot of Spanish. And wondered if you have any key phrases to teach us that we could use, because one of the things we advocate for when you're trying to travel authentically is at least learning a few phrases of the local language, so you're not too too touristy, I guess.
Yes, and I speak Spanish, not perfectly, not fluently, but enough. But I always try and speak Spanish if I'm with the Spanish speaking, with Spanish speaking people. I try and at least start in Spanish and give it my all. And nor usually, though, eventually it changes to English because their English is better than my Spanish. But definitely, I mean, there's a few things. So if you're sitting down to eat in Puerto Rico, everyone says buen provecho. It's like the Puerto Rican version of bon appetit. So that's, I mean, everywhere, anytime you're in a restaurant, the server will say it to you. You'll say it across the table to each other, buen provecho. So you'll fit right in. I would say permiso is a good one. That's like, excuse me, kind of sets the tone, like, that you're trying. Estoy tratando is I'm trying.
I need that one.
So, yeah. And then, I mean, the great thing about these, like technology today is you could really, like, there's so many different apps and programs you can do to get by and, communicate that way, show someone on your phone what you're trying to say and translate it. So yeah. And there's a lot of English spoken. If you go into like the kind of less populated areas, it's less common, but but everyone, try every time I've been anywhere, everyone tries to communicate and you figure it out.
Yeah, that's great. And so let's talk a little bit about your book. And
great.
We know that Puerto Rico has wonderful, beautiful beaches, but I think we also want to say, what else? What else does Puerto Rico have to offer? And so one of the things I loved about Puerto Rico was the history and just learning about the buildings and what had happened there in the past. If you are a history lover, what kinds of things do you suggest?
There's a few things. I mean, Old San Juan is a beautiful historic city. It's, that's, if you went on a cruise, you probably have been there. That's where you leave from. But so much history there. There are a couple of forts that are major, like 400-year-old forts that protected the island for centuries. And there's just a lot of history and culture, museums there. And then another town in the southwest of Puerto Rico is a town called San German, German, San German. And it is beautiful, old, one of the oldest towns in the island and still cobblestone, very well preserved, very beautiful, a couple of historic churches there. So that is another great place to learn about history. And there's a museum there and the people are wonderful. I love this place, the museum, and so that would be another one I'd recommend for sure for history lovers.
And what about Ponce? Would that be history or architecture or?
Ponce is so much. It's the second biggest city in Puerto Rico. It's on the southern coast. San Juan is on the northern coast. And yes, Ponce, there is a wonderful tour that is done in Ponce by a woman who runs a business called Isla Caribe Tours. Highly recommend.
Yeah, we took that actually.
Did you do it?
Yes.
Love her.
Melina.
Love her. Yes, love Melina. So, and she's super smart and knowledgeable and loves Puerto Rico, loves Ponce, knows everything. So I would highly recommend that tour. If you're in that area, it kind of gives you a lay of the land of why what you're seeing is important, what happened there. And then Ponce also is just, there's so much. One of my favorite museums I've ever been to in the world is the Museo del Arte de Ponce, the Ponce Art Museum. And it is just a stunning building and the works of art in there are phenomenal. And it's just, if you think of Puerto Rico only as San Juan and the beach, those are things you wouldn't even know are there. And there's so much.
And the great thing about Ponce is it's only about a 90-minute drive from San Juan. So it could even be a day trip.
Absolutely. Everything could be a day trip.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But again, very easy to get to and lots to see there. What about adventurous types? So if you're somebody who likes to hike or swim or do other, other things? Zip lining?
There, there's everything. Puerto Rico, if you're someone that likes adventure, likes the adrenaline rush, or likes just being in the outdoors with not so much of an adrenaline rush, there's so much. So Puerto Rico has the only subtropical rainforest in the United States, and there's trails in there, and you can hike up mountains, and there's waterfalls, and it's beautiful, and there's kind of all different levels of difficulty there. So that's called El Yunque. And that's probably about an hour, a little less than an hour from San Juan. And then the zip line, you said there's also the second longest zip line in the world is in
Wow.
Puerto Rico. It is long. And it is at a place called Toro Verde Adventure Park. And it's super fun. They have a lot of zip lines, and then the beast is the monster is the biggest one. They have the beast, and then they have the monster, and you go down like head first Superman style, and it's very fun. And then there's amazing scuba diving here. There's the Puerto Rico Trench, which is a really, really popular place for scuba divers. There, you can swim and snorkel with sea turtles. You can go rafting down a river. Just so much to do outdoors here.
Yeah, that's great. I know we went to the forest as well, and one of the things I learned was that you don't need to go on a tour. You can rent a car and drive from San Juan in about 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas most of the tours cost, well over $100 per person. So,
and they have an amazing app too. They have a really good app that you can follow, and it'll tell you kind of what trails are open and what's going on. So that makes it super easy to do if you don't want to take a tour.
And there's waterfalls, which are
gorgeous.
Beautiful.
It was so hard, in the book. There's so much, people, I would ask everyone, like, what's your favorite thing? Where's your favorite place to go? And people would tell me I had so many waterfalls and little pools and all this. And it was so hard to choose kind of what to put in the book, because there's so many beautiful things to see and do. And I couldn't do 100 waterfalls. So, I kind of had to pick one of each thing, but there's plenty of beautiful things to see wherever you are.
Which also brings up the question of what to pack, because I have a really hard time packing, and I was trying to travel light, so I only had flip-flops and sneakers, and really missed my hiking boots when we went hiking. And as a result, well, I didn't get injured, but I would say it was pretty close to that because I didn't have the right shoes on. So it is, I think, going into the national forest there, it is something you want to plan for and bring the right equipment, because
if you think you're going to go hiking and you don't want, yes, definitely kind of, if you have an idea of what you want to do, pack for that. And if you don't have what you need, it's a reason to come back again and visit and bring what you need.
Yes, this is it. Progress. And what about art? So, well, I'll let you talk, and then I'll tell you what I think. But there was a tremendous amount of art in Puerto Rico, and I didn't see a lot of it. But even urban art.
There's a lot. I mean, in a lot of cities and a lot of municipalities, you'll see street art all over. Where I live, there's just murals all over the place. You catch your eye. They're beautiful. And there's amazing artists that are from here. There's a wonderful, like, very vibrant, creative community throughout the island. And so you can go to a traditional museum like the Ponce Art Museum I talked about, or the Puerto Rican Art Museum in San Juan. But then there's also, like you said, street art and murals. And one of my favorite places in all of Puerto Rico is a town called Yauco. And you may have seen pictures of it if people haven't been there. But a man there started an art project where they started to paint a lot of buildings to match each other in these really vibrant, bright colors, with a cool pattern that kind of goes from building to building. They all fit together. And to look at it is stunning. It's just such a cool site, whether you're close up or far away. And then also throughout the town, as part of the project, which he did to kind of encourage people to go and explore the town, he said there was a big staircase and to get to the top to see to a good viewpoint, and no one would ever go on the staircase and he's like, how can we encourage people to get up there and climb this big staircase and see the beauty that we have here? And so he started this project. So in addition to all the buildings that are kind of painted to go together, there are just amazing one-off murals all throughout the town, that you go and find. There's a interactive Google map that he made. It's called Yao Chromatic. And you can follow that and it'll lead you to the different murals that are all by different artists that are just gorgeous, gorgeous murals.
Yeah, there were so many things to see there. It was actually one of my regrets that we didn't stay a day longer in that area, because the art was beautiful and yeah, really, really stunning. I just want to bring in a bit of a question that has come in and see if we can answer it. When would you say is the best time of year to visit Puerto Rico, and when is it the least crowded and kind of the off? Well, there's two questions. When is the off season? When is it less crowded?
I'd say like the most crowded times are when it's cold up in the States or in Canada. So the winter months would definitely be the busy season. But you can really come most of the year. It's great to come. Those shoulder seasons before and after winter are great. The only time I would say like maybe consider a different time would be September, October. It's when the height of when a storm might potentially hit. It's the height of the storm season, and a lot of businesses close and kind of take their time to go on vacation and their time away. So you can come then, but there might be, fewer things to do or fewer places to eat if some places are closed. But yeah. Other than that, in the summer it's hot, but it's always hot, and I like the heat. So you can always, and you're never too far from an ocean or a sea.
So the other thing that we loved was the food. And obviously San Juan has some really spectacular restaurants, and a very much a farm to table community. Could you share some of your tips on where to go in and outside of San Juan for some great food?
Sure. So in San Juan, there's tons of amazing places. In Old San Juan, there's a restaurant called Marmalade that is known worldwide as one of the top restaurants. It is amazing. There's other restaurants that are just outside of the main city of Old San Juan, with some really wonderful chefs doing really cool stuff. Santaella is one. The chef is Jose Santaella. Mario Pagan is another, kind of very upscale, creative, beautiful things that they're putting out. And then I just saw that the chef at this bar called Jungle Bird was named one of Food and Wine's best new chefs last year. So that is another great place to go, and that's in Santurce. And then outside of the city, there's so much. I mean, there is an authentic German restaurant in the hills, in the mountains, and you can go there, and it's some of the best bratwurst I've ever had. Amazing food. You wouldn't expect it. You pull up there and it looks like a German chalet, and it is the most beautiful views, and the food is spectacular. And then there's another thing that's really cool to do if you're looking to get like some real down-home Puerto Rican kind of food. There's something called chinchorreo, and it's on the weekends that people go and go from bar to bar, restaurant to restaurant, and kind of eat like pastelillos, which are kind of fried turnovers, and mofongo, which is a staple dish here, and different traditional dishes. And you go from place to place, you eat, you drink, you dance, you have a great time with your friends and family. It's almost like a bar crawl, but with food and fun.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, there's the diversity was great. And I actually thought the food on Vieques was among the best that I had in Puerto Rico.
I
Um,
should mention Vieques. Yes,
and
the
there's
food
only a
here.
few restaurants.
Thank you, thank you. No, the food here is great too. So this, where I live on Vieques, so Puerto Rico is kind of three inhabited islands. There's the main island of Puerto Rico, and then there's two offshore islands, Vieques, where I live, and Culebra. And you can get there on a ferry or a plane to either of these islands. And yeah, so I live on Vieques, and the food here is phenomenal. There's all different types of restaurants. There's a lot, and it's very, very fresh food. Straight, a lobster that was swimming a couple hours earlier is on your plate that night. And just creativity on the dish, on the plates and the dishes, and just beautiful things that and you have to get creative here sometimes, because sometimes you can't get everything you want. So there's just some wonderful people doing amazing things. And then aside from the food here, I mean, the beaches here are spectacular. There's at least 20, which is low estimate, probably closer to 40 beautiful beaches. You can have a beach to yourself easily. And they're just stunning. And this is also home to the brightest bioluminescent bay in the world. So if you've ever been to a bioluminescent bay, there's only like 5 official, and 3 of them are in Puerto Rico. But they're bays and bodies of water that have a microorganism called dinoflagellates that glow in response to movement in the water. So if you go at night, you can kayak in the bay, Mosquito Bay here, and you can kayak, and the water, you put your paddle in the water and it turns bright blue for a second, and then it disappears and gets back to regular water color. But it's amazing. It's like, I always say, I know it's science, but it feels like magic. And you can see the outlines of fish that are swimming through. As they move, the water glows around them. It's one of the most amazing things that I've ever experienced, and part of the reason that I moved here. It's such a special place.
Yeah. When's the best time to see something like that?
So the best time is when there's no moon. So the new moon is the best time. But really, that's the brighter it is, the more difficult the effect is to see it. So tours don't run. You can only go with a licensed guide. It's illegal to go on your own. And tours do not run the night before, of, and after the full moon, because it's too bright to really appreciate, and kind of gives everyone a break, gives the bay a break. But other than that, tours run all the time.
Yeah. So I did that too. And my only advice there would be wear clothing that can get wet.
Definitely wear clothing that can get wet.
It is
what
wet.
did you think of it?
We did it on a
night of the bay?
We did it on a night where there had been rain. So I think it was a little bit diluted, but it was still an amazing thing to see the fish. It looked like kind of like lightning going through the water. And this, as you say, this bright greeny blue color kind of swishing through the water. And when you put your hand in, it's kind of goes on your hand. Like you can see the little
like sparkles
on your hand. So it is a really, really unique experience. And as you say, it's one of these things you can only really experience in Puerto Rico, because there aren't a lot of these around, and even the ones that are around are being affected by pollution.
Yeah, I mean, bioluminescence exists all in a lot of places, but there's only 5 of these bioluminescent bays. So you might see it somewhere else. Like, it's not unheard of to see. There's plenty of it happening, but these bays. So yeah, the one Vieques is the brightest in the world. It is very closely monitored, very protected. We just got our street lights changed to red so that it's not distracting and there's no light pollution or less light pollution. And it's monitored. The concentration of dinoflagellates there is monitored regularly. But you can also go in Fajardo and down in Lajas in La Parguera in the south. So Fajardo is kind of the northeast side of Puerto Rico, there's a bay there, and then in the south as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's an amazing experience. I can't imagine not having done that. It was very cool.
Yeah.
What about music? So Puerto Ricans love music. They love to dance. What's the music scene like? That's a question.
There's a great music scene. Actually, this year at Jazz Fest in New Orleans, Puerto Rico is the highlighted country, and there's tons of Puerto Rican bands that are going there. So that's pretty exciting. And there's a big music scene. There's a lot of live music venues all throughout the island. I mean, definitely in San Juan, in the San Juan metro area, but all over there's people doing all different kinds of things. I mean, from reggaeton to salsa to everything. And I'm not super up on the music scene, but I love to go see the live music. There's no bands that I really follow around, but I have friends that do, so that is helpful. They tell me who to see.
Yeah.
But there's live music. I traveled all throughout the island extensively, and you can go see live music all over. Puerto Rico is a very the energy is very, I keep saying vibrant, but that's really what it is. It's such a positive, fun, kind of excited, celebratory energy here. And I don't know if you experience the same type of thing.
Yeah,
So people are laughing and dancing and singing and playing music and just having a great time. And it's, simple pleasures.
The one of the thinking about the best time to come, one of the pieces of advice that we were given was to come in January for I think it's called the Sanse Festival, which is in San Juan.
Yes,
have you
big festival. Yes, that is one of the 100 things to do before you die in Puerto Rico. It is a festival, huge festival, the biggest party of the year in Puerto Rico. Old San Juan becomes just a massive party, and all of these kind of very historic plazas and historic places are transformed into stages where some of the biggest acts and also smaller acts perform all throughout the festival. And it's all free. You can walk from place to place. When I was there last year, I just hopped from concert to concert and saw, just people are excited, and it's awesome. I mean, there's music everywhere. There's food. There's parades in the street. There's art vendors. It's people like in parades with just musical instruments going down with big like masks and things. It's awesome. Super fun. If you're looking for a party, that is the party.
That's great. One of the questions that's just come in that I just want to ask is going from from dancing to driving, I guess. But what are the roads like, and can you rent cars? Is it easy? Like, what's the getting around question? What would you say getting around the island is the best way?
You can definitely drive. There's plenty of rental cars. I mean, at the airport, there's car rentals, and then all throughout the island, there's places to rent cars. I have a horrible sense of direction, sometimes a hindrance in my career, but I got around. Google Maps is amazing, and I got lost. I didn't know where I was. I would put in, it was fantastic. So you don't have to worry if you have like any kind of GPS, Google Maps, I would highly recommend. You don't have to really worry about getting lost. I would take a wrong turn and it picked up random dirt roads to get me back to where I needed to be. So you don't have to be intimidated that way. And there's the Ruta Panoramica is a beautiful, beautiful drive. It weaves through a lot of the middle of the island. It's these mountains, and they call it kind of the spine of the island. So if you're looking in the middle of the island horizontally on a map, there's a mountain range. And so you can drive there on roads that kind of twist and turn, and these mountainside roads that are, keep your eyes on the road for sure. But if you're in the passenger seat, beautiful, beautiful views. So, and then there's also highways, major highways that, toll roads. And if you're not looking to meander around, you can get from place to place pretty quickly as well.
Yeah, yeah. One thing I should have asked, kind of at the beginning was to talk about safety because a lot of the women in Journeywoman community are solo travelers and they like to go places on their own. What would your thoughts be on Puerto Rico as a destination for solo travel?
I would highly recommend it. I traveled pretty much the entire time when I was traveling to research this book. I was alone, and I never at any point felt in danger. I never felt like uncomfortable. I had some car trouble a couple of times. People immediately stopped to help me, like just on the side of the road. Just wonderful people. So if you're alone, and I understand, it could be a little intimidating, but I found I had such a great time, and it gave me the opportunity to meet people and talk to people and sit at the bar of a restaurant instead of at a table and talk to the bartender and find out what that person likes to do and where should I go and where could I see music. And so it's fun to share that experience with someone, of course, but it also there's also advantages to being on your own and kind of having that freedom to do what you want and talk to people and discover new things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of bars, let's talk about good drinks in Puerto Rico. So we talked about the pina colada a minute ago, which was, I think, invented.
Yes,
And
the pina colada was invented in San Juan. There's a few conflicting accounts of who actually invented it. I'm not going to take a side, but in the book it says go try both places because why not? But yes, so the pina colada was invented in Puerto Rico, and then there's great kind of stuff happening. There's a brewery that is awesome called Ocean Lab. It is very easy to get to from San Juan, like right by, like very close to the airport. And they're doing amazing, really cool things, like combining science with beer and local ingredients and like local coffee or whatever it might be, and infusing it into the beer. I don't know much about that process, but I just know it tastes awesome, and it's connected to a music venue where they have like all kinds of bands play, and music acts come, and it's right on the beach. Their motto is "Born on the Beach," so that is one I'd recommend. And then also in Vieques, there is a brand new distillery called Crab Island Rum that just opened in December, and they're doing amazing things. Also, there's a coffee infused rum, orange infused rum, and
wow.
it's awesome. So those are two I definitely recommend. And then all over the island, there's Dos Hermanos Sangria Company is another one, and like just tons of stuff happening.
One of the questions that came in was about what dishes should people try when they come to Puerto Rico. And I know there were some nights I ate so much I could not literally move. So it's delicious food. So what would you suggest people try if they come?
I mean, the big thing is mofongo, which is kind of a mashed, it could be plantains, it could be yuca, it could be breadfruit, kind of mashed up, boiled, mashed up, you can get, chicken, shrimp, whatever in there. So everyone makes it differently, and everyone's, is the best. So you should definitely try that and see for yourself. It's like the traditional dish. And then, I mean, I am not a huge seafood eater, but at times I really wish I was a huge seafood eater, because there's so much fresh seafood happening here, and the menu is just creative ways to prepare it. And even I'm a very simple eater, but even I will go out of my comfort zone because sometimes it just is too irresistible to pass up. So yeah, I mean, there's an amazing cheese company here that's called Vaca Negra. You can go make your own cheese. That's a super fun experience, and you can also just buy the cheese, and it's delicious. So yeah, I mean, I would say mofongo. If you go on the Chinchorreo, you can try all different kinds of traditional foods, pastelillos, which are kind of fried stuffed turnovers, and to try the seafood if you're into seafood, lobster, fresh fish.
Yeah, I thought the food was incredible. So
Where were your favorite? Where did you eat so much you couldn't move?
marmalade, definitely.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about marmalade is Chef Peter comes over and talks to people, and I think that's a very nice touch when chefs do that. And again, I would just say on Vieques, like some of the, it felt like the seafood had just jumped out of the ocean and landed on your plate. So it was really, really yummy.
Yes, yes.
I know we only have a few minutes left, so I just want to make sure we have all the questions. We're answering all the questions that people have. There are a few here about volunteering. So knowing that, you're going to a place that has had its share of natural disasters, especially recently, is there anything you would suggest that people could do when they come, or anything that people need when they come to Puerto Rico?
I mean, you said you volunteered with World Central Kitchen.
Yeah.
They are obviously amazing. They were a lifeline after the storms here a few years ago, and to anywhere that there's a natural disaster, they are there. So that is definitely one you can volunteer with. There's an organization here called Para la Naturaleza, and they have all kinds of volunteer opportunities, more in terms of like replanting trees or counting wildlife or that kind of thing, if you're into that. And then there's a lot of other organizations, but I don't really know who to recommend other than that. I can get back to you on that.
Yeah,
but those are a couple of good to start with.
That's great. I want to mention the contest to get one of Amy's books. So Amy has an Instagram account called 100 Things to Do. Is that the right name?
It's 100 Things Puerto Rico. 100 Things Puerto Rico. 100 Things Puerto Rico.
And if you go and it's the same for Journeywoman. So we're asking if you'll go like both and or follow both, like the post that's up there today. There's a picture of Amy's book. And then also tag somebody you think would like Puerto Rico, and we'll enter all those names into a draw. And by Friday give away 2 books, one from Amy's book page and one from Journeywoman. And then you can have book in hand and travel around the island as I did.
Absolutely.
That's great. Well, I think we're going to shut down now. But Amy, I want to thank you so much for all your expertise, and congratulations on your book. I mean, it's amazing to write a book, and also it's obvious to me that your heart was really in this to help with tourism and help a place that you love, and I think that's really admirable. And so thank you for that. I hope you all will go support Amy as she tries to help tourism in Puerto Rico. And again, just want to close off by reminding you of a couple things. One is feel free to join our Journeywoman travel group if you have more questions about Puerto Rico, and we'll try to answer them, or the Journeywoman page. We'll have another Facebook Live soon, and I think it will be on New Zealand, but we're open to suggestions. And then the last thing I want to mention is International Women's Day is coming up, and if you have any great photos of mothers and daughters from your travels around the world that you'd like to share with us, we're going to put those all in a special feature and share them with everybody. So please send your photos in to me at editor@journeywoman.com. And we'll feature your stories and your photos. So that's all for today. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye.